Good morning. Yes, it's still morning. I am the last talk before lunch, so I'm talking about food. Cool. This talk is just something fun I put together. I like to cook, and I'm learning hacking and stuff like that, so I found some similarities and thought it would be kind of fun to talk about. BSides is great for that kind of stuff. So, go to the next one. Okay. I'm not talking about simple stuff like takeout pizza and ramen noodles and cereal and stuff like that. Everyone does that kind of stuff, and I'm talking about taking your stuff to the next level, trying to figure out how to cook better. I'm also not talking about baking. Baking is hard and it takes precision. Cooking is something you can do with all sorts of stuff, and you can experiment and play around with things. When you get into baking, you got to be like really precise with things, and there's a lot more techniques that go along with that. I'm also not talking about presentation. I suck at making food look nice. I put it on a plate, and it works. As long as it tastes good, that's what's important to me. So, a little bit about me. I love to cook. I love to eat. I started cooking probably around 10 years old. I was a latchkey kid, so from 4th grade on, I was home alone until my parents would come home from work. So I had to figure out how to cook and how to deal with snacks after school and stuff like that early on. By the time I was in high school, I was cooking 1 meal a week at least, full meal. My mom has lots and lots of spices and herbs and all this kind of stuff around the house. So I didn't have the ability to go and figure all this stuff out. This was well before Google and things like that. So I kind of had to learn by smell and taste. So I had to kind of figure things out and experiment, see what's going on. So in my day job, I do ICS SCADA assessments and designs. I'm an engineer and a programmer. Basically, I'm an electrical engineer that learned how to program, and I'm not a hacker. But as I've been learning a lot more about the hacker space and stuff like that, I kind of figured out there's sort of a mentality and a way that hacking kind of gets done. So this is my little thing of what the hacker mentality is. There's a lot of equipment, tools, resources, information, everything, all sorts of things out there. Sort of question everything. So why does it do that? What's this? Oh, that looks interesting. Let me go look into that. There's a lot of sort of this just questioning mentality. And then a lot of experimentation and figuring things out yourself. You can teach yourself a lot just by looking at online resources. There's tons of stuff out there. There's books and everything out there to learn from. And there's also a community of people that want to share this information with other people. So sharing with others, that's another big thing about the hacker sort of mentality. And then teaching others what you know. So sharing with others just basic information and learning from others, but then also teaching it to other people and really trying to explain stuff to somebody else so you can learn it better yourself. So there's lots of equipment out there, cooking stuff and lots of different stuff on the network security side. There's lots of tools. There's lots of techniques. So you got grilling, barbecuing, baking, pressure cooks. You were bringing up sous vide last talks, roasting stews. On the right-hand side, you got assessments, audits, and packing and active scanning, pen tests, war driving, all this kind of stuff goes on. And then there's resources, tons and tons of resources. This is actually pictures from my bookshelves here. So lots and lots of cookbooks out there, lots and lots of books on security and programming and different ICS kind of things and SCADA and all that kind of stuff's out there. Lots and lots of stuff online. Google's your friend. If you don't like Google, there's Bing, there's Yahoo, there's DuckDuckGo if you really want to be secure and all that kind of stuff. And then you can see there. And Food Network and Pinterest and places like that, they have tons of information. Recipes. Recipes are a good place to start. Same thing on the security side. Procedures. Everyone has a procedure for something. But if you want to learn something new, great. Do that. Do a recipe first. Figure it out. But then learn from there. If you're trying to make something very specific, if you know that you want to make this particular recipe and you need to reproduce it for a large number of people, or maybe you're trying to actually go and make it for a competition or something like that, yeah, do it with a recipe. And a lot of times it's mostly just suggestions for amounts and times and temperatures and things like that. And there's always going to be a to-taste comment in a recipe because everyone likes it slightly different. Same thing with security. I mean, if you're trying to do something very specific, yeah, a recipe's very good. Procedures, they're very good laying out. If you're doing a NERC SIP audit or something like that, you've got to lay out and have your checklist right there. But most of the time it's a suggestion for a workflow of how you would go about doing a pen test or something. Okay, you know, for a pen test you're going to start with OPSEC and then you're going to do some social engineering or something like that, and maybe a vulnerability assessment. You start out with a ping sweep and then you'll do some sort, or you'll do passive scanning first, then you do a ping sweep to figure out what devices are out there, and then maybe you move on to an Nmap, a low bandwidth an Nmap scan or something, and so that kind of stuff. But then there's always going to be something you find in that vulnerability assessment that is something you want to investigate further. Some device did something you didn't expect, and so now you want to investigate further. So now you go and you have to adjust what you do and the procedure you follow based on what you actually find during your assessment. You're always going to have requirements and constraints. Cooking, maybe you're dealing with kosher or halal, vegetarian or vegan, low salt, no salt, allergies, all sorts of things. Maybe on the right-hand side, there's always going to be stuff you run into when you're running assessments or doing things. Oh, you can't touch that system over there. That's too fragile and it won't handle anything. Or this is out of scope. Maybe you're doing. Maybe a company comes to you and says they want a pen test. Well, do you really want a pen test, or do you just want a vulnerability assessment? Do you actually want us to go and do social engineering on your employees? Do you want us to do a hardware or like a physical pen test on it where we actually look for places where you've got the unlocked doors and your guard gates and stuff like that aren't done? So it's those kind of questions and constraints that you run into all the time. And experimentation, okay? These are a couple quotes from Thomas Edison. Experimentation is a big part of hacking. You've always got to try and experiment with new things, experiment with different techniques. Maybe you hear about this new software that's out there and you want to play with it, so you got to figure out, maybe you set up a lab internally in your at your site or in your test systems so that you can go and play around with it, and then you can actually add it to your list of things that you can actually claim that you can do as a consultant or whatever. Well, if you've never tried it, there's no way you're going to go and do it at a customer site probably. So you got to try it, and maybe you fail a couple times. Same thing with cooking. You're going to fail, or what is considered not what you were looking for. So maybe you went and you went to try and do this particular recipe or something like that, and you threw in something, maybe too much salt, and then you had to change it because you needed to throw in some potatoes or something like that to absorb the salt, or then you had to change the recipe some, or you threw in a little bit this other thing, or so there's always going to be problems that you run into in cooking, and you got to kind of roll with them and go with how things work. Just recently, I made the mistake of trying to I didn't have milk, so I was making tuna casserole. I didn't have milk on site, but I had vanilla almond milk. It tasted horrendous. It was an experiment to see if it would work, and it didn't quite work out the way I thought. I couldn't stand it. It turned out, actually, one of my relatives did like it, so they said they took the whole thing. So I didn't like it. It didn't have how I thought it was a failure, but they liked it. So a couple of examples of things that I found that are good things to play around with and experiment with. So pizza and rice. Pizza. Okay. You can go to a restaurant and find all sorts of stuff, and pizza in a restaurant tastes great. When you get it actually at the restaurant, you don't take it home, it typically tastes outstanding. Why is that? Typically it's heat and it's the dough. heat. At home, when you make pizza, you can get your, they'll a lot of times say to put your oven to 400. Okay, that's great. A pizza oven is typically 650 or higher. If you're dealing with a brick oven pizza, that's up to 1,000. You're not going to get your typical in-house oven up to those temperatures. So what do? Well, it turns out your broiler can actually get up to those temperatures, or at least 600 typically. And if you got a self-cleaning oven, you can really get it up if you really wanted to try it. But a broiler in an oven will get around 600. So cook it for the base at about 400. And then when you're trying to get that nice little crispy, crunchy, like burnt cheese on top, put the broiler on for 2 minutes at the very end. Cooks nice pizza. Grills also work really well. I get my grill up to 800 degrees. So they cook really well. Now, you got to pay attention to it and learn how to do it. Again, you got to experiment and play around with stuff. But you can actually cook some really good pizza on a grill. The dough, that's another one of the things. Reproducing at home, it depends on what level you want to go to. Are you going to be Alton Brown and go and make your own dough from scratch at home? Well, yeah, if you want to try that, but I'd suggest a couple methods first before you do that. Now you can go out and buy bubbly crusts, or like most grocery stores will have their own brand of crusts, and they're okay. If you do buy one, you probably want to buy one that's uncooked because it will actually cook in the oven better. But I have gotten into now buying fresh dough and rolling it out myself. And with that, you can actually you can get some really good pizza and stuff that will taste a lot like a restaurant quality pizza at home. And then scratch, you can go and there's tons of recipes online to find how to make your own dough. I haven't gotten there yet. Rice is another one. There's plenty of ways to make rice. Why do you do it the way you do? Uncle Ben says so. Probably not. It's actually that's actually not one of the best ways to make rice. And then, why does rice end up like this big ball of goo most of the time? Yeah, it's okay, good when you first make it, but then give it half an hour and it turns into this big block. Well, a lot of times that's because of starch. So one of the first things you got to do is rinse your rice. Rinse off all that extra starch on the outside. Unless you're looking for sticky rice, like making sushi or making like rice balls or something like that, you probably don't want starchy rice, really gooey rice. So rinse it. It's real simple. Just take and rinse it in a bowl. You'll see it gets cloudy. Pour that water off, rinse it again. It'll get less cloudy, rinse it again. Maybe it's not cloudy at all at that point. So that gets off most of the starch. Next thing is boiling it. I've gotten into the point where I boil it like pasta. Pasta, you put a big amount of water and you boil it, and then you go and strain it off afterwards. And basically what happens is you're boiling it in enough water that can handle any extra starch that's on the rice, and then you get nice big fluffy rice afterwards. It doesn't stick together. You don't have to do this like, okay, it's got to sit there and you put the top on and then you don't touch it for 5 minutes, or you don't touch it for 20 minutes or things like that. Actually, you don't have to worry about the amount of rice. You don't have to worry about the amount of water. You don't have to worry about how long it cooks. You do, but then again, you do it like pasta. You take a couple pieces out, you taste them. Are they done enough? Are they crunchy? Stuff like that. You can kind of experiment on the times, figure stuff out. Microwave, that's another good thing. You can actually microwave rice and it'll come out pretty good. Usually, depending on the power of your microwave, about 11 minutes. But again, a microwave is designed to heat water and make steam. What are you trying to do with rice? Heat water and make steam. So, you do a pretty good job with that. Sorry, I'm kind of wandering around. Hopefully, you're getting me. One of the other big things is you want to share what you do with others. It sucks to make food all by yourself because generally all you get is leftovers and dishes. So try and go and actually make food for others. Invite friends over, invite family over, and it'll give you motivation also to try and like make food, make something that's cool, make something that's different. You can kind of play around with things and get an idea what to do, but then really it's all about sharing stuff with others. And then teaching others. You got to teach the next people to learn how to do this better as well. So these are a couple pictures of my daughter. We're making sure to teach her early on, like how to cook. She's going and actually, she's flipping pancakes and stuff like that by herself now and using the stove, and she's 6. I'm hoping to get her to learn how to do all this stuff so that she can teach her kids and whatever. I'm also trying to make this fun. This is not about trying to make it a chore where she's got to do this because it's her responsibility. No, I want her to actually enjoy cooking. It's all about having fun with this. I think that's the end of my talk. I just kind of, as I said, it's kind of fun, some ideas that I've had as I've grown in my experience doing computer security and stuff.